A throw of these special dice decide the outcome of battles in an intricate scoring system. Nothing is acted out. The real action is in the mind.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
We are Howling Giant. I'm Zach. I play drums and do some backup vocals.
And I'm Tom. I play guitar and I sing lead vox.
I'm Sebastian. I play bass and sing backup vocals.
And how would you describe the music of Howling Giant?
I guess we're a rock band who likes to experiment in kind of some heavier styles. Definitely a prog influence and a little bit of doom influence, for sure.
And where are you guys based?
We're from Nashville, Tennessee.
So let's talk a little bit about how Howling Giant came together. What led to you guys forming?
Yeah, originally Zach and I went to college together, and we were in different bands at the time. And we decided to create a side project just kind of for fun, focusing on like the Sword style riffs, Sleep, and a lot of those classic like stoner metal bands. We were called Skulldozer at the time, and it turned out to be super fun. We were writing songs about our Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. I think we had songs like Anthos the Minotaur. Whale Lord we actually wrote back in the Skulldozer days.
Husk was an original one that we do these days. And then we had other hits that never made the cut later. Dire Bear, Flight of the Demon Crow.
Oh, dude, it was awesome. Those were the glory days. But yeah, that was back in Boston. So when we graduated college, we decided to move with a few friends to Nashville. And we kind of took like a year off or two, I think, and then reformed under the name Howling Giant. And that's what we are today.
So do you guys want to tell people where you went to school in Boston?
Yeah, we went to Berklee College of Music, Berklee College of Vegetables. That's what we did.
We did it.
We did it. We learned our scales. We learned our arpeggios.
Traditional harmony. Am I using it now? Couldn't say.
I would say the biggest thing I got out of Berklee was that everybody watched Metalocalypse at the time. And I think that show taught me some of the most usable skills that I have today. I think I learned from Metalocalypse.
Yeah.
And what would those skills be?
That you should grow your hair as long as you possibly can. It's okay to play electric guitars in hot tubs. And the dream is to eventually play on a giant floating metal island, jet propelled and hovering above the earth. And it's okay to write albums to sea creatures. I think that's what I learned.
Hence Whale Lord.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you guys write about everyday life. Those are very relatable themes.
Everyday life, yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty mundane, really.
Were you guys all from the East Coast originally?
I'm from Minnesota, and then I moved out to Boston.
Yeah, I'm an Army brat. We moved around a whole lot. And then I pretty much moved to Boston, then made the move here. So just kept going. Nashville's the longest I've been anywhere.
Really. Seabass joined on board once we moved to Nashville. Seabass.
Yeah, I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I came down to Nashville in 2011. I went to school down here and met up with these guys just through the rock scene in Nashville and actually through the brewery scene as well, because we all used to work for breweries kind of before the whole COVID thing.
We're beer boys.
We're beer boys.
And we kind of stole Seabass from another band at the time, right?
That's true.
Yes.
We sharked him.
Yeah. I'm officially sharked.
It was great.
This band is cutthroat in business.
Why Nashville?
We, honestly, for Tom and I at least, we kind of were looking, all the musicians from our school were going to LA or New York. And I don't know, I visited both and it just didn't really vibe with me. We had a bunch of buddies moving down who were songwriters and they kind of sold it to me. And at the time, it was cheaper to live here.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of searching for a strong music city. We were, at the time that we moved, I don't think we necessarily knew for sure that Howling Giant was going to exist, but there were like so many music opportunities. And with the cheaper living and with all of our friends and the support group that we had down here.
And I think cities like LA or New York are kind of more like entertainment towns, whereas Nashville is really focused on being like a musician's town. The home for musicians.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Nashville, but the first thing that comes to mind is the music there.
Yeah, I mean, lots of songwriters, a lot of country, but there's so much more here. We kind of talk about it all the time. It's just there is a scene for any style of music. and it's each one's thriving. I mean, the hip hop scene here is pretty incredible.
Yeah, the hip hop scene is really big here. The underground metal scene is great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really cool metal bands, and especially a lot of like rockers from the '80s kind of moved here after they kind of wanted a more relaxed life. So
yeah, a lot of them moved out to the country, kind of just outside of town here. So it's weird, you get those guys coming in to just to hang out.
Mustaine somewhere walking down the street, or Kid Rock.
It could be also that they don't have to pay like any local income tax around here, and they were just like, well, cool, cheaper. Let's go to Nashville. Screw LA.
About what year would this have been when you guys moved to Nashville?
I moved here with Tom fall of 2013, and then we kind of started moving with the band a little bit more with our old bass player when he came down like early 2014, which is when we started working on the first EP, just the self-titled EP.
You spoke a little bit about the prog influence on your music. One of the things that I think separates Howling Giant from a lot of other bands is the fact that you write conceptually. There are a lot of conceptual themes running through your EPs and your album. I guess let's start with why the concept albums? Why is this something that interests you?
I think for us, concept albums kind of help focus. In an album, we like to have a common theme. It helps the songs feel more cohesive. I've always felt that it's important when listening to an album to be able to start it and listen through the whole thing. We've never necessarily subscribed to the idea of writing like a hit single and then the rest being kind of filler. We wanted everything to serve a purpose. So by creating a story, it let us hone in and give each song a very specific purpose and function so that you can listen to the whole thing start to back. Yeah, it's been hard, I think, as a songwriter for me to just write about some really kind of short, singular, like emotional idea. I think being able to tap into characters and fiction gives a lot of fuel.
Well, and it kind of taps into the original purpose of songwriting, from ancient times, which is storytelling. That's what it was all about. Like, if anyone was singing, that it was always telling a story, and that just, it was easier to wrap our heads around something like that.
For sure.
Think.
Can you tell me a little bit about the concepts behind Black Hole Space Wizard and your first album, The Space Between Worlds?
So with Black Hole Space Wizard, that was something we had dreamed up when we were in college, like as Skulldozer. We wrote the song Husk, and we kind of envisioned this universe, and we always joked about just this Black Hole Space Wizard project, like high concept. We didn't know how we wanted to do it. We just had an idea of a storyline. And it all started with Husk, which, funny enough, was not included in those EPs. It was in the first self-titled. But that was the origin story of this character, the Pioneer, that we started to follow. So, I mean, fast forward down to Nashville, and we were like, just recording everything we did. Like, the first EP was in Tom's bedroom. The second one we did, we got a just random call when we applied for the Converse Rubber Tracks program, and they brought us back to Boston to do 4 songs in 2 or 3 days. So we ended up going up there, and we were just trying to figure out what to do. And we were like, okay, let's start the Black Hole Space Wizard stuff finally, like we were talking about. And we had a couple songs. We started working on it. We had a concept. And then the next thing we know, for some reason that got a little traction on Bandcamp. So we were like, okay, let's make this a multi-part series. And we did part 2. So that is just our love of sci-fi just boiled all into one pot, the melting pot of all of our nerdisms. And it's completely ridiculous. It has all the stoner buzzwords. So
and people have been constantly asking for part 3. And we can't say anything right now.
What I can say is that it is real, but I just don't know when it's going to materialize. We are just conduits pulling energy from the sky. And sometimes it's Black Hole Space Wizard. Sometimes it's not. And I think that's where we got with The Space Between Worlds. We started writing just a bunch with no real intention. We were like, we need to do a full-length album. Is it part 3? Is it something else? We don't know. We wrote. And in that time, we had 3 songs together. And our friend Kevin, ended up playing bass on the first 3 tracks, but that's while we were meeting Sebastian. And we started to gain more songs in the camp of not Black Hole Space Wizard, and said, okay, let's do a full length that's outside of that universe. And we still need a concept, because for us, I feel like it makes writing lyrics a little easier to have some sort of story, and it's a little more visual for us.
Yeah.
So, and then Sebas came in, and we kind of, briefed him on the whole deal, taught him everything, and he jumped right in with us, and we worked on the Space Between Worlds. And that was just like, it was a really good time. Got Sebas going in the band.
It was kind of exciting to almost immediately jump in the band and then have a new project, because, normally when you join a band that's already been established, it's kind of like, all right, well, we have to learn these songs, and then it's going to be, we're going out on the road for forever. And, that's really just what you focus on, is like the older songs, and then just constantly playing shows. And so for this, it was kind of like, all right, hey, you're joining the band. By the way, we have this timeline set, and here's what we didn't want to do with this album. So let's just jump in and go. And so it was really fun to kind of experience a new area of songwriting, and just to write with new people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And to come out of Black Hole Space Wizard Part 2, we still wanted to do a concept, like I mentioned, but we wanted a little more freedom, because we were telling a pretty linear story. So we wanted the idea of these dimensional gateways, so you could just drop down into a world for a single song, something like Cybermancer, which in the grand scheme of things almost doesn't fit in the album, but it fits thematically in the way that we just said, okay, we're writing different scenes. Each song is a different episode of the Twilight Zone, but there is an overall story that connects everything, but you can just drop in at any point. And that's, a classic prog thing a lot of people do.
And it was kind of fun to be able to experiment with different styles of rock as well, like, having the psychedelic stuff, having the heavy stuff, and then having something like Cybermancer that's a little bit more on the punk side. So to be able to do a different, facets of the genre was really fun.
An excuse to be weird is always what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We like some weird pop punk and stuff like that on top of all this stoner doom prog. Like, who didn't listen to Green Day in middle school,
So when we're talking about the concepts, is there a narrative that you follow from song to song? And is there a character that the albums are about?
So Black Hole Space Wizard really focuses on a single character more than anything else, the Pioneer and his journey. And when he's pretty much all alone for the most part. We're just kind of filling in some backstory in part 1. Part 2, he's on this husk planet Earth, but discovers there is this enclave of druids. So you get a song about them with Circle of Druids. He meets this lone wizard at the very end of that EP. So we're introducing a lot of those characters, and part 3 eventually will be about the ultimate showdown between him and the Black Hole Space Wizard. So that is a very character-focused album. Space Between Worlds, you have this character, the Huntress, who in her dream state is a sort of dream warrior and protector of a realm that connects all human dreams. It's a nexus of sorts. And each song, some of them, like we mentioned with the dimensional portals, drops you down into a just different character. That's almost her diving into this portal, this well, and experiencing the life or the dreams of a specific person. Ice Castle, Cybermancer, stuff like that. And then there are other songs like Comet Rider introducing the Huntress, and Stone Giant being the end, and Nomad is all about her specifically. So pretty character driven on some of the songs, and others it's just somebody else completely. And then you have the split, which was just we wanted to do something else.
Yeah, that was really fun to be able to work with Sergeant Thunderhoof and kind of collaborate on a story with them. That's something that we've never really done before.
Yeah.
So to be able to, work with them and create that story was really cool.
In that way, just taking folklore and adapting our songwriting to something that existed already.
Yeah, I guess we weren't really creating the story, but kind of making our own interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that split. It's called Turn to Stone Chapter 2, Masamune and Muramasa. This episode is a little bit unusual in the sense that it's almost like a part 2 because I spoke to Dan from Sergeant Thunderhoof about their side of the split. So for anybody who hasn't listened to that episode, maybe can you give us a little bit of a background to the legend that you guys based the split on and the story of Masamune and Muramasa?
Mm-hmm. So Masamune and Muramasa were swordsmiths, and even though they lived, decades, centuries apart, realistically, there was a legend of them, Muramasa being Masamune's apprentice, and this story of the two of them competing. Muramasa says, I can, I've grown enough as your apprentice. I can make a better sword than you. Mm-hmm. And the whole story is about the two of them making their blades and having a contest. And the contest was watched from a distance by this monk, describing the way that the blades acted. And so Masamune worked on many blades, and a lot of them were, I wouldn't say like necessarily holy blades, but they were clean and they're for honorable warriors, where Muramasa,
a bit more on the darker side.
Yeah, people would call his blades in real life like bloodthirsty and cursed. And they took those ideas and combined them in this story. So they hold their blades through a waterfall, and Masamune's cuts through the water perfectly, but goes around the fish and basically does not damage the leaf at all. And Muramasa kills the fish, slices the leaf in half. Yeah. And it was just clearly an evil, bloodthirsty blade. So we were talking with the Sergeant Thunderhoof guys about, what to do. We were talking about this story. We decided together, like, okay, you take one, we'll take the other. And then we were just bouncing ideas off of each other. I remember we were on the road when we sent one of the riffs, just sent them a quick video. We wanted to share lyric and melody as well as some riff ideas. So we traded those back and forth. So there was some amount of cohesiveness between the two sides. So we tell the tale of Masamune, they tell the tale of Muramasa.
Yeah. That was another really cool thing, to be able to kind of trade riffs with each other. And it almost felt like you were shouting out the other band, to have that main riff in the beginning of Masamune and have, a slightly similar thing in Muramasa's side. It's just really cool. So that was fun for us to do.
Yeah, we wanted it to be an album performed by two bands, not just a split, but one cohesive album performed by two bands.
So to backtrack a little bit, did you guys come up with the concept yourselves?
You play a lot of video games here and there. We tend to, and the blade comes up, and then you see something. You're like, what is this demon blade of Muramasa? And Tom was looking into a lot of the lore, and we ended up talking about a lot. We brought that to the Thunderhoof guys, and they loved the idea. So we were just, we were like, let's write about swords, dude.
I mean, what?
And did you choose Masamune for yourselves?
I don't remember. What did we do?
I think we did.
I think they might have really called it, because we were a little, we weren't sure at the time, and they were like, we'd like to write about the evil blade. It's like, okay. I was down to do either. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, what, you guys do what you're comfortable with. So,
and it was, honestly, for me, it was kind of interesting to write more about the good side, the holy side, because
we just write post-apocalyptic music.
Yeah, and when you're writing something that's like more metal or just heavy music in general, I wouldn't say it's easier to write about evil things, but it's sometimes a bit more common to write about like more darker themes. So to have like heavy music,
well, it's natural, right?
Yeah,
it's natural. I mean, going back to the very first Black Sabbath song.
And so, but to have like heavy music combined with a more like clean and positive concept was really fun and interesting to do.
So let's talk about the song itself. It's almost 20 minutes long. Is this the longest song that you guys have recorded?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we knew that when we got into this, we were like, you know what? We've been writing these concept albums. Let's each write one track. Let's just fill the whole side with a track, and let's go from there. And what's more doomy than that, I think, we didn't go quite the route of like Dope Smoker, where you can like play one riff for like 10 minutes. I don't have the attention span for that. Certainly, as a drummer, I get pretty bored easily. So we decided to go in the way of movements, a little more the classical music route. Like this is the embodiment of the entire situation with Masamune, and we wanted to write movements within that and blend them all together. And the Sergeant Thunderhoof guys did the same thing, and they did such a wonderful job. I love their stuff.
So tell me a little bit about the challenges that arise when you write and record a 20-minute song.
Yeah, it's filling time. I don't know. Sometimes
you get a lot of writer's block because you're just constantly working on something that's so long. But kind of like Zach said, with the way that we did it in movements, it honestly made that a little bit easier for us because it's kind of the way we're used to working on, other albums and EPs. One of the main differences, though, is just trying to find the transition between the movements.
Yeah.
It was a little bit easier for us to write those separate movements, but to kind of combine them together was a little bit tricky.
Yeah, we storyboarded it pretty hard and just kind of looked at, we need to hit right around 20 minutes. What do we have to do to get there? And we came up with loose ideas of what was happening conceptually, and then we kind of committed certain riffs and melodic ideas to those sections. So once we got that, it was a little easier. But like Sebas said, it was the melding of all the sections that was, I think, just figuring out how do we do this in the cleanest possible way.
And I'm still frustrated because it's technically not a 20-minute song. It's 19 minutes and 40-some seconds.
Realistically, we should have let it drone out at the end for some extra time.
We should have let Tom hold that feedback at the very end there. But,
you can't win them all.
Right?
Some people say you can't win any of them.
Did you guys record this yourselves?
Yes. So my wife, Kim, I'm Zach here, she records us all, mixes us all. And this time around, though, she's done everything before. We tracked everything with her, and then she had to go on a tour all of January, and we needed somebody to mix it. And we have some buddies that knew Ben from All Them Witches, and he does a ton of mixing and producing for bands in town. So we got in touch with him. He ended up mixing the record and did an incredible job.
Yeah, really spectacular.
So do you guys have your own studio?
Yeah, my wife and I built a little spot in the basement. That's where we practice all the time. That's where we're doing all of our live streams and videos and stuff like that. We have bands in every once in a while, not as often these days, but we're always working on albums for someone or buddies or anything else. And then we can always have just as much time as Howling Giant kind of needs. We just clear the schedule a little bit.
When I spoke to Dan, it was, I think, a week before the split had been released.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, as I'm speaking to you guys now, the split has actually been out for a couple of weeks. Can you tell me a little bit about the reaction and some of the feedback you've been getting?
Yeah, I mean, for a split album, it's one of those things where some people never take the idea of a split album seriously. So the fact that we've had so many positive reviews, I haven't seen a negative one yet. I haven't seen one that was just like, this is okay. Everyone has been very positive about it, and that's really encouraging. And it goes to show I'm happy about the work that both bands put in as one unit. And I think we created something pretty unique in the scheme of split albums.
And I think everybody was kind of surprised because the people who are used to split albums are kind of used to the standard of maybe, one side a band plays a couple songs, the other side, the other band plays a couple songs, and it's not really a cohesive thing. And so people were, have been really pleasantly surprised that it's like a cohesive full album that they can listen to in its entirety.
Yeah. Plus, we force them into it by just writing one track each.
Right.
I think that was really a PR move more than it was anything else, right?
Yeah.
At what point did Ripple get involved with this?
So Ripple, we've been talking to them for a very long time, and we were talking to them about full-length albums, and our boy Jad with Blues Funeral kind of swooped in and wooed us about for the full-length Blues Funeral. But Jad also works with Ripple. Jad works with every label. He's the hardest working man I know. So we were talking about we still want to do a project with Ripple, and Bucky, who reviews quite a few albums and works with Ripple in like kind of some A&R capacity, he was like, we should get you guys on a split. So that kind of started that conversation, and that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was before Sebastian, and then right when you kind of came in, we're like, okay, we finalized this stuff. We got this full length album, but then we got to work on the split immediately after. So, yeah.
With
talk to me about Dungeons and Dragons. What role does Dungeons and Dragons, no pun intended, but what role does Dungeons and Dragons play in the world of Howling Giant?
Inspiration. We've been playing a lot lately, especially at the beginning of all the lockdowns. We were just like, all right, screw it, hop on Roll20. We get with our buddies. We got, a friend up in Toronto, friend up in Boston, us down here. Everyone hopped on and we just started playing campaigns, and it's died down a little bit. Everyone's able to go back to work in some capacity, so we haven't been playing as often, but that was the real lifesaver around this time for socialization. And our friend James actually wrote a D&D campaign around the Space Between Worlds and was working with that concept. We were getting deep into it. I recorded all of them and I've been editing them down. I'm hoping to release them in like a podcast form. And we tried to stream them on Twitch for a while, but it's not fun to watch somebody play D&D for 4 hours. If you listen to any of those podcasts like The Adventure Zone, they have a great time, but you can tell they edit the crap out of it because no one wants to hear you do math and like figure out, okay, how much damage should I do? I add this and then that and that. You just want to hear the funny stuff where like, you're flirting with the dungeon master or something like that.
The sound of rolling dice plays really well on a podcast.
Yeah.
We played a bit of Dungeons and Dragons on the road as well. Just kind of like smaller games, not really like fleshed out.
Super loose, yeah.
Super loose, but it's kind of like, we use it as a time filler when, we have long road trips. Back when shows were actually a thing, we would do that a whole lot.
Yeah.
So, do I have this right? You guys actually host D&D games online?
We used to. We used to do that on the Twitch, and that was earlier this year. We had a small, loyal following, but it's hard. Unless you're Vin Diesel playing Dungeons and Dragons, no one wants to watch you. So unfortunately, none of us have that. Oh, yeah, there's some stuff on YouTube. You should look it up.
Oh, my God.
Just Vin Diesel playing D&D. It's incredible. But we're just some young men that no one cares about doing that. So we're moving over to more of a music-centered Twitch. We might occasionally throw up a game or two. I have buddies that stream games on Twitch all the time, and we would love to get in on some of that. But I think we're going to switch things over, be a little more music-centric, and then have the occasional goofball game or something like that.
The link between Dungeons and Dragons and metal is a little bit of a cliche and something that people joke about. But, I played Forgotten Realms when I was in 8th grade, maybe up to 9th grade. And that's also around the time I got into metal. And so it's a pretty natural transition from playing Dungeons and Dragons and then somebody gives you an Iron Maiden album or, you see the artwork and it's like, oh, of course I like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Any of the classic, like, Frank Frazetta or any of those heavy metal magazines, it all just ties right in. It fits so well thematically, and that's, I think, where we all landed. I actually didn't end up playing D&D until college, but Tom had for a while, so I had a bunch of buddies that really showed me the way. I felt weird about it in the beginning. The role-playing aspect is a little funky for some people, but like now it's just like, yeah, dude, I'm a bard. I bring in a recorder and I'll learn the John Cena theme or like Fireball by Pitbull, and that's my spell, man.
I mean, I have such mixed feelings because I think I'm probably about 15 years older than you guys, and so Dungeons and Dragons was definitely not like a cool. There were no Vin Diesels repping Dungeons and Dragons back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was something that like, when there was a little bit of a kind of a cultural movement to embracing it, or at least not actively persecuting it, yeah. I kind of felt like, well, where the fuck were you people 20 years ago? And so
people really embrace the nerd lifestyle these days. And I know it certainly didn't always used to be that way. So I don't know. Just with video games becoming a little more commonplace with everybody plays them now. Yeah. And the whole pro gaming circuit and stuff like that. I think people are just accepting it more because it's in their face more.
Yeah. It's funny though, because there are a number of comedians who come from an improv background, Stephen Colbert being one of them, who were D&D players who played role-playing games, and there's a definite link between being an improviser and role playing. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of forced to be creative and think about things that don't exist and create things that don't exist at the moment.
I mean, especially as a DM, just pulling a random, like, you can have your list of characters that you know are going to be in this town, but your party could go somewhere else and you just got to roll with it. You know, it's up to the players. So to create characters out of thin air and some personality, and just like, really my knee-jerk reaction is like, all right, here's an old gnome who's going to screw with you the whole time. That's where I go every time. Like, you know, crotchety old gnome.
Was that pun intended? You got to roll with it?
That's, you know, we're really, yeah. He said it earlier. Hey, keep with it, Seabass.
Okay, so we should move on before this whole podcast is stuffed into a locker.
Yeah.
So the split between Howling Giant and Sergeant Thunderhoof is called Turn to Stone Chapter 2, Masamune and Muramasa. It is out now through Ripple Music. What is the best way for people to hear this?
Bandcamp is always the best for us. They're very kind people, especially on Bandcamp Fridays, the first Friday of each month. They waive their revenue share. So the bands get 100% of everything that people buy. So our Bandcamp right now has merch and CDs of the split album, digital. Ripple has it as well. Ripple might have a few copies of vinyl left on their big cartel store. And then Sergeant Thunderhoof is also sold out. But if you are in the UK or Europe, the shipping will be a little cheaper for you if you buy it from the Sergeant Thunderhoof store, because I know shipping is a real crazy time right now.
And I should mention that Ripple Music will be donating 10% of their digital sales to the UNCF. And I understand you guys are also donating some of the proceeds as well, right?
Yes, we are donating to a local organization, Gideon's Army, that has helped in many aspects of just Nashville and social politics. The big focus right now is actually rebuilding North Nashville. We had a terrible tornado earlier in March, and they've been focusing on a lot of the communities in North Nashville that have been hit very hard. Also very active in a lot of the protests around town, Black Lives Matter and stuff like that.
If people want to follow Howling Giant online, how can they do that?
Yes, we have all of the social medias. We have the Instagram, just at Howling Giant, all one word, all lowercase. We are on Facebook.com/Howling Giant. Like we mentioned earlier with the Bandcamp, howlinggiant.bandcamp.com. We are on Twitter. I will just respond occasionally. I only really go on there to retweet stuff and respond. I don't know how Twitter works.
I honestly sometimes forget that we have a Twitter, but
true.
We do have it. It's there.
And now, these days, we have our YouTube channel. You can just look up Howling Giant, and we are about to be every Saturday on Twitch at 5 p.m. Central Time. We will be streaming our practices. So Saturday, 5 p.m. Central, we'll be live from the practice room, answering questions, playing songs, learning things. Who knows what the hell else we might get into.
Going to be playing a lot of old songs, too. A lot of stuff that hasn't really been played a whole lot on our most recent shows. So, yeah, come and check it out.
Don't promise too much, Seabass. I got to learn those songs.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Thank you for having us. Thanks to the Sergeant Thunderhoof boys and Ripple Music for getting this whole thing together. We love you all.
And everybody out there, stay safe and wear a mask, okay?
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I'm casting Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Fine.